and obviously he is a Mexican American and I'm a Caucasian American, and yet we might look different. We had a lot more similarities as we grew to know each other than just what our outside appearances may show. So.
And on top of that, even whether it's an all-white community, all-black community, there's always going to be differences between those people, just because of personal experiences and what you've done and what you've learned throughout life.
And your thoughts as well.
Correct. Yes.
So hopefully that answered your question a little bit, or insight a little bit. Okay. Well, we'll go on and we'll see if what we have further for you can answer some of those questions a little more. So for me personally, what I believe diversity is having the ability to associate yourselves with different groups of people, no matter how they look or how they act, just different groups of people. And one of the most important things to me too is that if you have different groups of people that come from different environments and they have unique stories and unique situations that they have been in, I would love for anybody like that to share with me their experiences. Me coming down from Cleveland, I've learned so much down here that I would never even thought about. And on top of that, taking negotiating diversity class with Dr. Lyons, that opened my mind completely, and I thought about different scenarios in a way I would never even consider. And I believe if we all open ourselves up to new ideas and new environments and new beliefs, that eventually we could start but decreasing the level of racial tension and diversity that segregates our country how we are now.
And to me, diversity is understanding that different people come from a different environment, they have different experiences, and that shapes you. So you have to understand that everyone is different. Someone might go through something that you haven't gone through, so you have to understand maybe that's why they act or maybe that's why they do something. But also, diversity to me means coming together as a group. Like I mentioned before, it means sharing your ideas, sharing your experiences, so you can truly understand each other and not just so you don't just have part of the story, you have the whole story, you understand everyone completely.
I can't stay on.
And I think diversity is very important in the world. It'll help everyone grow, become stronger. It'll empower everyone in the community, not only as just a whole, but it'll also make everyone more knowledgeable on certain situations. Being diverse results in more concepts and ideas to solve a problem, and with those ideas, we can use that to help solve the problem with others, and not just everyone being so headstrong and trying to do it independently by themselves.
And individually, with my personal experiences with diversity and just being involved or in different environments, this is a different environment from where I grew up in. Yes, Parma is a suburb of Cleveland, but that's just where I live now. And I just moved there 3 years ago. Where I grew up in, it's technically a village because it's that small, and you could classify it as your quote-unquote rich neighborhood, but that doesn't necessarily mean I had a lot of wealth in my family, and that doesn't mean that I was necessarily given more opportunities than others. That just tells me that I was not as diverse as I could have been, because it was a predominantly white neighborhood, and that some could say that with white supremacy going around, that'd be a good thing for me. But when you travel the world and when you move outside of that little bubble that you're stuck in, sometimes you don't know what to do. Coming here, I had no friends, didn't know what to do. Sometimes it's really scary. And so that growing up where I'm from or living in Parma where I do now does not really represent the past I've had or the future that I will take. And I just want to mention too that we did go on a site visit to Olivet Baptist Church, and that was a whole new world to me as well, because the only churches I've been to were Catholic churches. So that's all I've been experienced, and I usually only go there when there's a marriage or a death in the family. And so usually it's more of a not upsetting tone to it, but I always never was really too excited to go to church. But when I first entered the Baptist church with open arms and welcoming people and friendly voices, it was eye-opening to me how amazing that just changing scenery and being in a different atmosphere could really open your eyes and make you experience the world and change your beliefs on what you think is out there in the world of experience.
So, being a Mexican American, like Alan mentioned, my family was Mexican, so I grew up with the Mexican traditions, Mexican ways of doing things. And then as I grew up, I started going to school with it was mainly white children that went there. So I started learning the American culture, American ways of doing things. So in that way, it really helped me because I now can understand both sides. Sometimes my mom will say something like, I don't get why white people do this or why they think this way. Well, I've gone to school with them, I've talked to them, they're my friends, and I understand more why they do things. And sometimes my roommates, I do like the things I cook or the things I eat, they ask me, why do you do this? And it's just because I grew up at home that way. So being Mexican American, it really helped me learn from both sides and being able to understand. And hopefully this will be more of a bridge to connect both cultures, both groups of people to understand more. And also in this course, another thing I learned was the blindness that sometimes we have. Sometimes we don't mean to look away, or we don't think that something is wrong just because we don't really see it. But if you really stop to think about it and take the time to think about someone's struggles or something someone has gone through, you really understand a little bit more. And also, like Alan mentioned, we went to the Baptist church, and that really opened up my eyes as well, because I as well go to a Catholic church with my family, and the Baptist church was just a completely different experience for me. And one thing I really learned is that if you want to learn something new, you have to put yourself in a new environment and truly take everything in, not just assume that you know everything or assume that something is some way because they're different. You really have to get in there and experience it.
In other words, open your mind, right?
Yes, sir.
And this class was very eye-opening to me. Like I said, I'm from Toledo. It's a midway point between Cleveland and Chicago, Detroit and Cincinnati. It's a big intersection. There's a big, diverse group of people in Toledo. And